Hey guys!
Hi, book besties.
What's up?
Happy Wednesday.
Or whenever you're watching.
We are getting close to the end of season 3.
I know. It's pretty wild. We were just talking about like our recording schedule and we were like, wait, it's these episodes and then we're gonna be like done with the recording.
Yeah.
For season 3.
That's crazy.
Wild.
I'm kind of glad we're doing like 10 episodes per season. I like that personally. I feel like it's easier for y'all to digest.
Yeah, I also like it. And it's an easy way to explain to people because when I tell people we do like, oh, we're in season 3, they're like, what do you mean you're in season 3? And I'm like, okay, it's 10 episodes and then we take a breather.
Yeah.
And then we're back. Like it's not that complicated.
And then it gives you guys a chance to binge.
Yeah.
Our friend Anna, shout out, she told me that she was like, oh my gosh, Kaitlin, I kid you not, I binged 7 episodes in a row.
Cute.
I was like, girl, what did you do? She's like, well, I need to go grocery shopping and I clean the house. And I was like,
that's a lot of us.
Thanks.
Talking in your ear. Meanwhile, my sister does not listen to this to the podcast.
Oh, dark.
I know. It's fine. The fans are, we love you guys.
We're happy that you guys are here.
Yes. Kaitlin, how has your reading been going?
Oh, no.
Now that we're still in May, so we're still kind of working through our books that we talked about at the start of the month. How's it going for you?
I'm not going to lie. I'm struggling, you guys. I finished Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, which, wow. And then I will finish 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I'm looking at it on my bookshelf.
She's so pretty.
Yeah, I got the UK version.
Me too. It's coming in.
Yeah. It's really cute. But you know what? It kind of looks like Daughter of the Moon Goddess. A little bit.
But the colors, it's more pastel-y. So
it
it's
is.
Okay.
I'm talking about like the girl on it. You know what I mean?
The girl.
The girl. You see the girl?
Yeah.
At the bottom.
But,
anyway.
But, yeah. She's cute.
Yeah, reading's a little slow right now. 2 books in May. That's rough. For me.
That's okay.
It's okay. How is your reading going?
Good. It started off a little slow, which is ironic for me to say. Weirdly, I finished Just for the Summer, Abby Jimenez, on May 1st. So I'm kind of like, it doesn't really count because I was reading it in the end of April. I just happened to finish it on May 1st. So technically that'll be in my May wrap up, I guess.
Yeah.
But then I took I was a little bit slumpy for a second.
Oh.
But I picked up Poppy War, which I was almost scared to pick it up because I've been talking about reading this book for so long. And the beginning of it was a little rough. It was a little slow. And it reminded me of another series that I really love. And I was a little bit scared because I was like, okay, I really, really, really want to love this. I love R.F. Kuang as an author. But it felt very similar to just another series. But then it took a totally different turn. Okay, and I was like, okay, now we're good. But yeah, and then I basically read all 3 books in a row, the whole trilogy, which I think if you're going to read that trilogy, I think you need to commit to reading all 3 in a row. I don't think you can lose momentum.
Yeah.
But I am also a person that when I get into a series, I typically stick with it and I'll read maybe 1 or 2 books in between, but I really do just kind of dive into a series as a whole. I don't stop. But I think that was really helpful just to do all 3 books because then the momentum just built more and more. And so, yeah, I think the first book took me a little bit longer to get through, but then in the second and third book, I was pretty much flying through because I was so in it at that point. Then I read 6 Crimson Cranes, and now I am reading Yellowface.
Woohoo! Oh,
so
hey, there you go.
I'm a lot of R.F. Kuang this month, but I'm loving it.
Yes.
So that has been going very interesting.
Oh, good.
I'm hoping to finish it in the next day or 2.
Oh, amazing.
So we'll see. But that's where I'm at.
What? Summer is coming.
Yes.
Are there any books that you're looking forward to putting on your list or rereading or new books?
In terms of a reread, I may pick up Book Lovers one more time just to do, but I feel like that's only gonna take me a day, because I'll just skim honestly. Right. But I think I want to do that maybe. Okay. And then just in terms of the full TBR, I do think I'm finally gonna pick up Aragon. Which
Aragon,
is so,
hilarious.
Just because one of my friends, one of my besties, has been on me about picking up this book for months.
I love that.
But I also think I might just want like an easy YA,
right,
like dragon fantasy. I have no idea what the story is, but like that's definitely on my mind.
Wow. Okay.
Which is very. But in terms of other summary books, I don't have anything super specific.
Okay.
Like I just kind of have a variety of books that I'm like, oh, I want to pick that up. I want to pick that up, but nothing super summary specific.
Okay.
What about you though?
So me and our friend Tatum, we're going to go to the Ripped Bodice, and we're gonna meet Ashley Poston.
Oh, yes. I forgot that was coming out.
She wrote the 7-Year Slip, but a novel love story is coming out.
I'm so excited for that.
I am so excited. She has an excerpt on her Instagram. Guys, if you want to go check it out, it's literally so cute. So definitely that book I bought just for the summer, but I have not read it yet. So that's high on my list. And this is going to be like the first time I'm rereading some books.
Yay.
Yeah, so I'm going to read Every Summer After.
Cute.
And I also think I'm going to read Book Lovers.
Yay.
And Beach Read, because I've been needing to read it anyway.
Yeah.
So lots of like rom-com, romance
Cute.
stuff. Not a ton of fantasy, but I feel like summer is that like either like really fast thrillers or rom-com.
Well, I was gonna say I definitely still want to read Daughter of the Moon Goddess, even if I don't get to it in
I should
May,
probably do that
since May's kind of running out. But because it's still such a fairy tale-esque fantasy world, like I think it's gonna be a good like summer fantasy, because it's
then
like
maybe I'll add that.
It's giving fairy tale, you know?
Yeah.
Like I mean, at least from what I understand of the premise and the basic plot. I will say with fantasy for the summer, I think even though I'm like saying I might read Aragon, like I also think I'll probably do my fantasies that are more like fairy tales, like I don't know, like just kind of the lighter fantasy. I don't know if I want to go like heavy, like dark academia, like that kind of thing.
I save that for the fall.
Yes,
I do. I love it. I think summer's gonna be really fun, but also like you have like a book goal for the summer, and then sometimes your summers get really busy. Yeah. Or your summers are really slow and you can like devour all these books. So I'm actually looking forward to June and July. I think that'll be good.
Interesting months for sure. We'll be a little bit busy, but that's kind of the fun of it.
Yes.
But we wanted to kind of talk about something kind of interesting today, which I feel like we've talked about maybe briefly in the past when we've like talked about like social media presence of book content. But you know, if you go on Pinterest and you just look up like book aesthetic, you're going to see like book journaling. You're going to see books that are like completely fully annotated. There's just going to be like the vibes. Yeah. You know, and I love taking a cute picture of books. Yes. I love it, you know, but sometimes it can be a little overwhelming and like a little intimidating. Yes. To see like, oh wow, some people really just seem to have it all together when it comes to reading their books. Yeah. You know? And I wanted to like, I think specifically right now I wanted to like talk about annotating books. Because I feel like some people have, you know, expressed their opinion that it's like purely for the content and like to make yourself seem like fancier in a sense. And there's also the side of people that are like, no, I actually genuinely like tab because it helps me read, or it helps me like process the information in the book or whatever. So I think we both have our interesting and like unique experiences when it comes to what we annotate, how we annotate, why do we do it. Like, so Kaitlin, like you recently read Magnolia Parks and annotated it. Yes. And you had said that you hadn't annotated in a while, or that not very often. So like what does that look like for you when you want to annotate books?
Oh my, first of all, I just don't annotate books because I feel like it's a little more, I don't know, it is work. So your brain is already trying to process information on its own. And I think there are books that you're just going to like eat up in a sitting. And then there are those where, oh my gosh, like that quote's amazing and that quote's amazing. That's what happened to me with Magnolia Parks, because I was like, well, first of all, if you guys know Jessa Hastings, she just has so many poetic ways to talk about love. And so that first book has a lot of it. Didn't expect that I was going to keep getting a pen out. But I don't really remember the last one before that. if I'm going to annotate a book, I have to make sure I really like it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you tab and maybe underline and write, or do you just kind of like, does it depend?
That's a good question. I think, what do I do? I kind of just do what I want.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think that's how it should be. You know, I definitely, I think that I also just, it depends on the book, you know?
It does.
Sometimes there's a book I want to pick up and I know that I will just be reading it, like on the train, going to work, when I'm at work. I'll probably, like you kind of said, like eat it up in like a day or two, like, or even the course of a few days. And it's like, I don't have time to sit with it and underline and tab and write in the margins. But then there are other books that I will put off a little bit because I do know that I want to sit and like take time with the book. And sometimes that's a reread. Like sometimes that's something that I'm like, you know what, I really know I want to sit down this time and like really dive into it. Mm-hmm. But there are other books that, you know, you start reading it, you get a couple pages in, maybe a chapter, and you're like, oh, I think this is one I'm going to want to sit with a little bit.
I agree.
But the thing is, like, being in New York, I feel like because I read so much on the go, I sometimes have a book I want to read and annotate, but I'm like, oh, but I can only really read it on my commute, and I can't really. So sometimes I'll bring, like, tabs, and I'll just tab as I'm on the train, and then I'll go back home and I'll underline.
Have you ever done this where you're reading it on your Kindle, you'll highlight it, and then you'll go back into your Kindle, find the quote that you highlighted?
No, but that's a good idea.
And then you can just do it that way.
See, yeah, that's a good idea.
I think that's easier for me because...
Yeah.
Boba says hi, everybody.
We have a guest.
Boba. That was me. That was definitely me this time.
But no, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
To if we're on the go and I just my Kindle.
Yeah. Yeah.
There she is.
Oh gosh. This is there's a New York City puppy and she wants Oh, okay. What? So Sophia, as I need to take care of this. Tell me about like what do you write in the margins? Like, ooh, I want to know, and I'm listening.
It really depends because sometimes I'm just underlining and like that's it, you know, or maybe I'm highlighting. Sometimes if I want to write and like underline, I'll do a highlighter and underline, and then I'll use a pen and write like whatever I want. You know what I mean? It's random. But I will say that I've tried to get away from like making it super aesthetic.
Okay.
Like there's definitely been things I've misspelled or whatever. And I'm just like, you know what? It's fine. Like this is only for me anyways.
Oh, well, recently you walk them through the process of you getting the Lord of the Rings book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if it has not been made clear in previous episodes, probably one of the biggest things that I love, like as a specific book and like world, is Lord of the Rings. Like that is definitely like one of my top tier, just fantasies, stories in general. Like they're my favorite movies also, like to be honest.
Yeah.
And so guys, especially thrifting, when you find a used Lord of the Rings book, it feels like you're finding a treasure, you know? And so I have, unfortunately, not really unfortunately, but I've accumulated a lot of Lord of the Rings books from various years, and it's really cool because my collection has now grown from like, I now have books from the 1960s all the way up to like the current mass markets.
Oh my gosh, 1960. Is that your earliest one?
Right now, I think so, yes. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure. The 1999 covers are my favorite, I will say. But anyways, I am trying to do a reread soon that will be intentional annotating. Like that is my plan, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about with doing a reread of books and like being intentional about that. So I'm going to do The Hobbit first, and then I'll do the trilogy. But I was trying to decide which books to actually annotate because I was like, well, I have the like little mass markets that they're currently printing, but they're so tiny that there's no room to write in them. There's no room to take any notes or anything. And so then my other option was actually my 1999 covers because they're super floppy. They're big, like there's tons of space. But I was really held back by like, I don't know if these are the ones I'm going to want to write in, even though, again, they're just for me. Like, but knowing that they're only going to get, like, more appreciated with time, I'm kind of like, I don't know if those are the ones I want to write in. Maybe one day. Maybe on, like, another reread sometime. But for my first ever, like, official reread and annotating and, like, taking my time with it, I was a little nervous about that. So we were book shopping. Mm-hmm. And I found, I've seen these covers before, but I just, like, have always passed them by because I'm like, no, I only thrift them. Like, I don't really buy them new. And the 50th anniversary YA covers, like, I don't know if you guys knew this, but The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings are in, like, the young adult sections.
Oh, right. Yeah.
At Barnes & Noble.
We did not find them in the adult.
And Strand. You'll find them in adult, too. Like, they didn't have, but they don't have those covers. Like, there are young adult specific covers, which is so cool. Yeah. And the trilogy for this 50th anniversary cover for the young adult section, they're stunning. Like, the artwork is gorgeous and the books are super floppy and there's enough margins and space. So I did go ahead and just purchase those new. They were only $13 each too, like, because it's young adult. So those are the ones I'm going to be annotating. You know, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah. I've noticed that, like, me and you both, I don't know if you guys do this, but we don't actually annotate, like, the ones we really love. Now, if we know we're going to love a book a lot, like, I have the Magnolia Parks, like, UK cover, and I knew that I was going to love that book. And I was like, this is fine. But I have a small Pride and Prejudice that has rather thick margins. And I'm like, I think I might damage the book, maybe, like, throw it in my bag or something like that. And then I'm going to be writing all over it because it's a classic. And I feel like I need to annotate classics. So, me and Sophia, it seems like we've just find books that we don't mind maybe getting a little more damage because we're writing in it. Yeah. Because she's right. Like, these books go up in value, especially, like, very unique classic books.
I will say, to your point about, like, the books that we know that are just going to be loved at some point, we cannot go a single episode without talking about A River Enchanted. I swear.
Oh, by the way, Anna loves it. Yes, she's like, Kate, I'm eating it up. I'm like, I knew it. I was so happy for her. She was amazing. Like, I feel like you, like, this big reaction is going to be bigger than when I tell you I get engaged. Incredible. I'm like, probably. Probably.
Yeah. But yes, cannot go a single episode without mentioning it. But I obviously tabbed and underlined. I didn't really write in the margins. Maybe I'll do a reread of that this summer because I think I have a lot to say and to write in. But here's what I kind of loved, right? So it was already fairly loved by me writing, you know, tabbing and writing and underlining. But then my roommate read those copies. So the ones that I had already annotated. And, you know, she took them in her purse and would take them with her and, like, whatever. And, you know, the little corners on the books are a little bit, like, bent now. And, like, it's a little bit, you know, the spines aren't cracked because it's a very floppy book. So that's nice. But they're loved. Like, they're not, you know, pristine anymore. But I kind of actually love that because I had already made a decision to, in quote unquote, like, ruin the book in that sense. Like, you know, you're already writing in it. You're putting your own... you're putting yourself into a book, I think, when you annotate, when you choose to, like, physically write something in a book. So anyways, I kind of love that they're a little bit now, they're not the most perfect copies. Aww. But I'm like, oh, that's cute. I like it. So, you know.
Oh my gosh, you and your friends. Guys annotate books together too.
Yeah. I was like, wait, I can't go without which I think I've talked about before. But some of my book besties, Ainsley and Hannah, Ainsley was a guest on the podcast. We kind of did this, and we're doing another round now. We've begun our next round. But we did do 3 books that we basically sent to each other. We annotated and then sent it to the next person and then kept going. So
I love it.
There was the book that I read first, which was Powerless, and I annotated that. So I was the first one to write in the book. Then I passed that on. And then the next book I received was the 7-Year Slip, and Hannah had already annotated that. So I wrote in with her annotations. And then the last one I got was the Atlas 6, and both Ainsley and Hannah had already annotated it. So I was the third person to put our thoughts in. And so those are all now, you know, back out in the world, and we're starting a new round with some new books. And that's like, I think, the most fun way to collaborate with people, because of course you can text about books and call about them.
You're almost talking to each other in the book.
Like there are literally scenes where especially in Atlas 6, because I had both of their reactions, they were both like, what is happening right now? And I was like, yeah, same. Like, it's like the flow is coming out like literally while we're reading. Yes. And again, that is like not fancy at all, because we're just like putting our thoughts down on it. So if you guys are like kind of wanting to try annotating but have like some fun with it, I will also say one of my friends who read all of SJM, she's making her way through Crescent City soon, but she did all of ACOTAR and Throne of Glass pretty much back to back to back to back. She writes in all of her books, just like anyways, at least like as long as I've really known her, she's written in her books. And she wrote like all of her thoughts just like as they came to her. And like she didn't care if it was messy or not. She would like send me pictures, and then some of her friends who were reading it for the first time read her copies, so they got to see her thoughts like right away.
I like that.
And she would send me photos, and like literally some of them were like, "This is your fault, Sophia." Like like literally like her flow was just literally writing as she was thinking.
You know what? I will say. When it comes to SJM, so I read Throne of Glass, and if you're reading the first one, it's a big setup book for the rest of the world. You know, you're meeting all these characters, and so after I read that first one, which I almost DNF'd, I almost did, but I made it through. There were many times I almost DNF'd some books in Throne of Glass, but I absolutely love it. The one that I remember the most is Crown of Midnight, and there are tabs, annotations, reactions. It is pretty messy. That book,
it is messy.
I messed it up. Well, yes, it is messy.
At the storyline, I was like, oh.
But I remember it the clearest because I really went ham to annotate all the stuff. And I do, our teachers always probably told us like, oh, when you're annotating, like, you're interacting with the book. And I don't think I was like, okay, whatever, that's weird.
Right, yeah.
But, now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, yeah, like I actually do remember. And then when I open it up, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. So I feel like I need to be doing it more. And especially when it comes to fantasy, what I did was like I color coded tabs of things.
Oh, that's smart.
I said new character. Yeah. And each one that was introduced was purple. Or so like I coded each one because I knew that I wasn't going to remember, because I'm sure there was going to be more things that I like, new stuff. And you know what? Yeah, new stuff happened. So it helped me kind of like organize my thoughts. And I actually did go back a few times through the middle of the book and be like, oh, who is, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that was helpful for me. But I learned how to do that through TikTok and YouTube, because people are like, how do you annotate books now?
Yeah.
It's true. I thought that tip was really good. And I was like, well, I'll just try it. And I liked it. But it was a lot of work to sit down and read it, because I had to, pull up my highlighters and my pens.
And that's the biggest thing is, like, there are some people I know that, or I know, like, through TikTok, that every book they read, they bring tabs and a pen, like, wherever they go with them. Wow. And I'm like, I don't know if I could be that person, because sometimes I do just want to pick up a book and read it and, like, not have to pause at all to put in, like, any thoughts. But then, there are those books that I'm like, man, I want to sit with this. And I think you're right. Like, those are the books that do stick with you longer. Yeah. Like, I do think that there have been books that I just read and I forget about a week later.
Yeah, of course.
But the ones that I have, like, really sat down and, like, thought through and processed, I'm like, those stick with me.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, so I did want to kind of shift this a little bit into the book journaling.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's another very, like, aesthetic thing that I feel like, if you look up on YouTube, like, book journaling videos, like, I mean, they're the most, like, guys, like, shout out to this account Katie is reading. Like, I love watching her like, her spreads and, like, how she does her book journaling. Like, it's so cute. Like, I love it. But it's like, it is a very almost like crafty thing too, and so a lot of people I think feel like they can't do it because they're like, oh, I can't draw, or I can't this, or I can't that. And we both started book journals this year, and I think personally for me, like, washi tape and stickers are my best friend, and it's like fairly easy to keep up with, but I'm also not necessarily really trying to, like, make it the fanciest, most, like, super aesthetic thing ever. And I don't think you really are either. Like, I think we're just keeping this, like, for ourselves, honestly. But it's interesting just because, again, I feel like some people that are like, oh, you keep a book journal? Like, it's like, is that really helping you? Or is that just, like, because other people do it, you know?
I mean, I was definitely influenced to make a book journal. And, like, of course, it's fun to set it up and stuff like that. But I find myself doing more book tracking. I think that's really fun. And then when there's a book I love, I will just dedicate 2 whole pages, like a whole spread for that book. I'll go on Pinterest and I'll print stuff out. Like, I think it's more of like, I also write about how did it make me feel, who are my favorite characters, write down some of my favorite quotes. And so when I go back to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I love this. I forgot how much I love this book.
Yeah. Same. I think I do just like, I also don't have a printer. So like a lot of people that do book journals like print out tiny little, I think you maybe do the same thing. Yeah. I just don't have a printer at all. And I don't really feel like going to a library to like get access to a free printer or whatever. And so I just like sloppily kind of draw the covers, like, and so it's kind of just become my style now where it's like, I cannot draw, but I can do squiggles and make it look semi like the cover, you know? That's cute. And so that's just kind of become my I don't really want to say aesthetic, but maybe that's the right word for it, of just like, that's what my journal kind of looks like.
Honestly, yeah.
But yeah, same for me, like the tracking, and I'll make spreads for books I do really like. And I think it'll be fun to look back on at the end of the year and be like, oh man, I really remember really enjoying that book, but I read that in February, so it's been a while or whatever. Yeah. I just think again, like all of these things, you know, again, you go on Pinterest, you go to any like book talkers, book Instagrammers account, and you're like, man, like, wish I could do that. And it's like, you can. Just like, don't stress about it being perfect.
Yeah, it's just for
neither of us are doing this perfectly. Let's be honest, you know, there is no perfect.
But we will post a little glimpse if you want to see it on our Instagram. LOL.
And send us inspiration for stuff too if you guys are book journaling or
it's fun. I think one time me and Sophia and our friend Tatum, we just had a day and we just book journaled and listened to music and hung out. So if you have other friends to do it with, that's cool. And if you don't, pull someone up on YouTube and do it with them because they definitely have some good stuff. Yeah. Well, it's that time.
We have a question. Yeah. In case that was not made clear.
So good.
That was our transition.
Yeah. Okay. We're keeping it.
So, this is a funny one. Have you ever... This is from Ava Riza. Hello, shout out to you.
Hey.
It says, hi, besties. Hello.
Hi.
We love books in here, but has a book ever made you angry or upset? Kate, you start us off.
Okay. Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. First of all, it's weird because I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But there is some heavy racism in it. And it's quite ironic. This is not giving away anything, but a friend of this really famous Chinese author takes and steals her manuscript and puts her own name on it after her friend dies. So, crazy. And the friend is white. And so I thought R.F. Kuang did a really great job at writing it, but I just got so pissed.
I will say I'm about 60% of the way through right now. I have no idea how it's going to end. I have some thoughts, but I'm like, I genuinely don't know how it's going to end. So I could also have a very similar reaction. Right now, I'm just kind of like, what is happening? Like,
there's a lot going on.
That's kind of my reaction currently.
Yeah.
But this ending, whatever the ending is, I'm sure I will have a very messed up reaction as well. Because there's already been moments where I'm like, what is going on? And that honestly, I think that's the mark of a brilliant book and an amazing writer. I think that's the reaction she probably wanted.
Good.
You know? Yeah. I will say most of the times, like if I'm reading a book and it's not good necessarily, it's not going to make me angry. It's just going to be like a meh, like I'll just move on type thing. But the only example I can think of, and I'm not going to give spoilers, but I'm just going to keep it very vague. And if you know, you know. But I will just say, if you have read both books in the Fourth Wing duology so far, so Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and if you have read all of Throne of Glass, there is I don't even want to just call it a scene. There is a thing that happens to a character. Our character has to go through something. And it really feels like a copy and paste from Throne of Glass put into Iron Flame. And if we look at the books when they came out, Kingdom of Ash came out quite a while ago, and Iron Flame came out in 2023. And there's very clear inspiration through a lot of the books, I think. I think Rebecca Yarros was, you know, whether intentionally or not, she was inspired by Throne of Glass. Like, you can't not be, honestly, in this day and age with fantasy, I feel like. And there was a scene that happened in Iron Flame that literally I just had to close. I was reading on my Kindle. I wanted to say I slammed the book shut, but I didn't. I just turned off my Kindle. And I just literally was like, this feels like plagiarism, straight up. And so that made me so mad.
Not the P
like,
word.
Like, literally, that made me so mad. And people might disagree with me, and that's fine. But I personally felt like it felt like a copy and paste.
It was very close.
It was very close.
Ooh.
And I was like, I don't like it. And I think the thing is with Kingdom of Ash, I mean, that's the 8th book in this series. We've had a ton of time with the character. And in Iron Flame, that's only the 2nd book. And I'm like, I don't know this character well enough to empathize with what they're going through. And so, yeah, I just think that maybe that was a very specific thing in a book that I was just like, it just made me kind of mad because I was like,
of course,
I want to know what the thought process was and like if you did this intentionally or not. Like,
oh my gosh.
So other than that, like I can't think of another book that made me actually like angry, but that was a situation where I was just like, not gonna
lie, that's cringy, bro.
It was.
Yeah. I have not read Iron Flame yet.
Yeah.
I loaned out my copy to someone else, but it's weird because you get these mixed reviews, almost like you have diehard, like, I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I get the diehard SJM girls that are mostly the ones that are telling me, I don't know.
It really depends on what you read first.
Absolutely. Right.
So... that's my answer there. I'm going to just leave it there.
That's a tea.
I hope that was vague enough for our non-SJM and Iron Flame readers, but if you know, you know.
And message Sophia so you could
I can actually rant about it.
All right, y'all.
But yeah.
We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening.
Yay. Bye, guys.
Bye.